Anyway.
What to expect when expecting something from us? What, I mean...
Okay.
Sounds like the title of a really bad book my wife would read.
So should we just go into this then?
Yeah, jump into it.
So this is Lele and
Mikey.
Yeah, and we are...
Or maybe I don't want that to be my catchphrase. I don't want to be like, hey, it's Mikey. But, you know.
That's kind of creepy.
It is kind of creepy.
But we're...
It's not as creepy as this guy right here. He's the creeper. You know what I'm saying?
Anyway, we're going to do a podcast. We're siblings, and we're excited. Michael, today we're going to talk about Sasquatch.
Sasquatch?
Or Bigfoot.
You mean like some hairy hillbilly running out in the weeds or what?
Interesting that you asked, because according to the encyclopedia, a Sasquatch is also called Bigfoot and or / wild man, a large, hairy, human-like creature believed by some people to exist in the northwestern United States and western Canada. It seems to resemble the North American counterpart of the Himalayan region mythical monster, the abominable snowman or yeti.
I'm pretty sure I went to high school with that definition that you just gave.
I just
this
thought
kid
that was great.
could grow a beard when he was like 10 years old. I'm pretty sure his balls dropped when he was like 8. So, I mean...
Oh, well, a lot of people say they have really shorter legs and longer arms, too, so it would make sense, you know?
Okay, well, that wasn't that guy. He was, the proportions were all there, but... Man, was he hairy?
No, but really, a Sasquatch is described as a primate ranging from 6 to 15 feet.
15 feet? Good night.
Most people say around between 7 to 8.
And I thought Goliath was a big boy. Jeez.
Oh, it's...
Can you imagine that? Okay, you're like camping, and then you have these really tall trees, and then you got freaking Bigfoot's head like popping out above it, and you're like... Is he 15 feet tall? How? Those trees are like 12 foot. That means his head's got to be 15 feet minimum, you know?
Yeah, I think it would freak people out. And
but who set those standards? 15 feet?
I don't know. I think that one's...
That's like a 2-story building for crying out loud.
Most of them say around 7 something.
Okay, that's more in the lines of what I was thinking.
Okay.
15 feet. Good night.
People describe it often as giving off a foul smell, and even...
Well, it's not like they walk around washing themselves off with Dr. Squatch.
Well, you gotta let out those pheromones, right?
Fair as something.
And also, they say that they're either moving silently or emitting a high-pitched cry. Now, I've watched a lot of videos on this while I was researching. My
son showed me one.
Yeah, so actually, I would like to know what you think a Sasquatch would sound like, because a lot of them will make these sounds and they talk like they're freaking the masters. They know, they're like, this is, the cry of a Sasquatch, and of course it's correct. So
yeah,
what do you think?
They're experts, right?
So what do you think a Sasquatch would sound like? Give us your Sasquatch. And what is that? Him telling his wife he'll be home for dinner?
It was, it was him talking about how bad he smells.
Oh, okay, fair. So, anyway,
so based on what I did and what you've researched and or listened to, I mean, am I dead on?
I feel like you're better.
Better.
Yeah, I mean, like you seem like you have a lot more to say. They make it very boring. It's just, Beautiful. It's
Thank
beautiful.
You. Yeah.
So there's actually Sasquatch in a lot of different cultures, including Asia. I didn't realize that. They don't all look the same.
They got an Asian a Sasquatch?
Yeah.
No way.
In fact, I couldn't find the details on this. I heard rumor, so don't quote on it. But I heard that there were actual Vietnam soldiers who had Sasquatch encounters over in Nam.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. But imagine if you're fighting soldiers and then you run into one of those.
Yeah. When there's Charlie everywhere, there could be Sasquatch too.
I just know it would have probably made a few soldiers drop their balls. Speaking of.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
If they hadn't.
I would have shot a bazooka at it.
I know, right?
I would have been like, that's no Viet Cong, blow it to pieces, man! Ah!
And it's thinking, I just want to be friends.
But are you sure about that? You know what? That brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Must we fear the potentially 15-foot tall, hairy, stinky thing?
You know, a lot of people shoot at it. And then later they're like, oh, maybe it was friendly. So it seems like natural human reaction is to fire.
But what do we fear?
I think the fact that it might rip your head off and it's big.
We fear the unknown, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's what's unknown. Could walk over and, rip your head off and or step on your foot. I mean, because if it's heavy enough, that would hurt like hell, right?
I'm just going to say I would rather, I don't know. I am a woman, but I would rather ask questions and only fire if charged upon. But it seems like a lot of these guys, as soon as they see it, they just pull out their guns and go. Well,
that's unfortunate for Sasquatch.
Yeah.
No wonder he tends to run away,
So, okay, let me tell you that the earliest reportings of Sasquatch were coming from settlers, and it started around the late 1800s and into the 1900s with the occasional finding of footprints, sporadic encounters.
How they came up with the name Bigfoot?
Actually, I
were they big footprints?
I might be wrong, but when I was researching, I didn't put it in my notes, but I think it was said that it came in the 50s was when they actually added Bigfoot on there. Because they got like some castings of some big feet, and then that's when it started getting used.
So it was called Sasquatch before Bigfoot? Is that what you're saying?
Or who knows what? Like, who decided Sasquatch? I'd like to say, actually, Native Americans have had history on Sasquatch going way back, and I think that it sounds to me like a Native American
term. That does
sound
very indigenous to the
And I've seen
American
cave
people.
drawings of Sasquatch, and he was immense in those cave drawings.
So you have the little tiny people, and then there's this one guy decided to draw one thing that was way bigger. Like, this is Sasquatch. This is Bigfoot with his rock. Grind right chisel.
And it might have been a nightmare he had. You just don't know. And it might have all started from that.
Or maybe he was smoking some of that peyote, had a little bit too much of some puffy puff and thought he'd draw a really big draw. He thought he'd draw a really big guy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So back when it was first reported, in the early 18 and 1900s, people usually said it was around 8 feet tall. And,
Not 15.
Not 15. So I'm thinking that, some people got a little bit too much,
little carried away.
Well, they might have been drinking some moonshine. So it's actually most of the areas where Sasquatch is reported, interestingly enough, are areas where there's a lot of rainfall.
There's a town up in Canada called Saskatchewan, eh?
I didn't, actually. That's awesome.
Maybe that was the first sighting.
I don't know. I guess the thing is when you look at Sasquatch, there's so much more information than I thought. Because I thought it would just be a whole bunch of, silly sightings. Mm-hmm. And let me be honest with you, like getting serious just for a second. I honestly feel like if there was a Sasquatch, we would have seen it by now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if he was 15 feet tall.
Well,
okay, I'm done referencing that. Okay. I apologize.
No, you're okay. But
that was the first time I'd ever heard of anyone ever describing that thing that big. So I'm just baffled by it.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm sure, like I said, it was probably some hillbilly who was like, "Woo wee, we was out drinking."
That's taller than my lifted truck, and that thing's about 13 feet. It's got to be 15 feet. I got like those big tires, like you run over the cars on, and then anyway.
He were bigger than my husband, and my husband, he be like the biggest guy around. I mean, everybody knows, don't mess with Billy. Anyway, so basically, there are some things I found that make me kind of question. But I think that if there was a Bigfoot, I don't know. I don't know that they would still be around at this point.
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. Okay, I've seen lots of recordings where they show some figure running in the bushes. I even saw one recently of this like aerial. Someone had like a, what do you call them, floaty thingies in the air?
Oh,
Come on
one of
now.
those drones.
A drone footage. So this drone is just apparently the pilot unknowingly, just riding it through the countryside. And then of course it's like this far off shadowy figure, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, the sightings of it are always kind of skewed as far as the view, and it's kind of blurry. So, it's just some doofus wearing a freaking suit.
Well, to be honest,
going on a run, and he's like, I just happened to be out flying my drone in the mountains, flashing it across the hillside when a shadowy figure, my cousin Cletus, came running across the plains into the darkness of the woods, and I happened to catch it for about 10 seconds. And now I believe it's real. It's all real.
So, actually, I even watched one where cops caught one running across the road on their cam, and they didn't stop because he didn't break any laws. But
You mean they didn't knock him over and cuff him?
No. So I swear, honestly, I watched a whole bunch when I was researching this, and I think most of them are just people in hoodies. Like, they're not even in an ape suit. They're just in a black hoodie.
In a hoodie?
And they're just running really fast. I mean, I'm just not going to lie. That's what I saw. But speaking of footage, the biggest and most disputed footage is actually, I'm actually going to show you a quick clip of it. We'll put it in, we'll make a, what's it called? A connect for you guys to check it in the footnotes. What's it called?
A link?
A link, thank you.
We will link it for you. Don't worry. We will link it.
You can tell I'm really good on my technology. But we'll link it down below. And yeah, I know I'm bad.
It's because they're not a millennial.
I know.
I'm of the ripe older millennials. I was born in 1984, So we were the original OG millennials.
Oh, before I get into that, just because I think it's interesting, the very first recorded footprint of a Sasquatch was by the British explorer David Thompson.
David Thompson?
And it was in 1811.
Of course it was David Thompson. British explorer?
Okay.
Who else would it be?
So you're going to watch this why I read about it really fast. It's only 11 seconds.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
I'm
and this
watching
is
the
the
footage.
one. This is the one.
Whoa. It is shadowy.
Yes.
Okay, but it's in color.
Yes, it is. And it actually was, don't be so judgmental because
Dude, it moves like a primate.
Yeah, it was also.
It literally looks like a large gorilla.
So it was recorded in 1967.
That was in the 60s?
Yeah. And so
if that was fake, that was a big boy.
Yeah, well, and it has boobs. They like.
Wait, what?
Here, you need to
letting the next video start. What are you doing? Now I'm watching a Bigfoot alien. It's what? Stop, pause. Okay.
Go back.
So, all right. So that was pretty interesting.
Yes. Okay. So let me tell you a little about it real fast before, we proceed. So it's called the Patterson-Gimlin film. And it's a short motion picture. So these guys went up to this area where there was supposed to be a lot of Sasquatch footprints, right? Okay. And when the video actually starts, I just showed you the part where they see it. Mm-hmm. Or no, he pulled it out. Never mind. That was a different one that I'll tell you about later. But that's another one that people are, whatever about. But anyway, or, think is possibly true.
Okay.
So anyways, they went to look at footprints. All of a sudden, they see the Sasquatch walking by. He pulls out his little tiny camera. They were on horseback. He's like tripping and falling in a river, trying to cross it to get footage. His friend's like trying to cross it. Where it turned its head was when his friend crossed. So he was actually surprised he got the footage that he did. And until his dying day, he swears that that was not faked. So
all it takes is a couple of very convinced people for there to be a small glitter of hope
Okay, wait. Okay, so
that the primate giant in the forest is still trudging about.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, I was actually like kind of surprised by this one because I don't know, I felt like it was a little more arguable over some of the other stuff, you know?
Right.
And I mean, it would make sense.
Over some drone footage.
Well, yeah, and
with a shadowy figure.
And that was back in the 60s. So like back then, you know, things weren't as explored, you know, who knows? So anyway, the guy who shot it actually died of cancer in 72. And he maintained until his dying day that he didn't lie. And his friend Gimlin always kept
Don't worry, your secret's safe with me.
His friend Gimlin always kept his mouth really quiet. But he also said he did not take part in any hoax. And he actually did come out later and he did say that he did see what he saw. And that was when he said when it turned was when he crossed. And, you know, I mean, it's interesting. So they actually took a guy in Hollywood who does costumes for movies.
Was it some young guy?
No, he was actually older and chubby and kind of had a beard and
Oh. Okay.
Anyway, his last name was Munns, and he decided to try to figure out if it was fake. So first thing he did was like look at the actual footage, and it was told that it was shot on a 25 mil lens. And when he checked that,
I know nothing about cameras.
Me neither.
That doesn't. I'm like, it could have been like, that's on a 4.79er Bravo lens.
know,
and I'd be
right?
like, ooh, interesting.
So he said that if it was shot on that lens, it would have actually been short, like more like around the 4-foot-ish tall. So he took and like measured trees and stuff in it, like stuff we could never do. And he found that there was an inconsistency. And then he figured out that it was actually not a 25 mil lens, it was a 15, which means that the Sasquatch was in, you know, around like 8 feet tall.
Okay, so that's where the bona fide information about its height is considered from things like this.
Maybe. I mean, that's the one where it seems like the most legit information.
But it looks pretty big. The problem is it's hard to tell on the camera how close they are to it.
Yes, and another thing is because it was clear back in the 60s, their cameras weren't very good. And it was, you know, shot from further away. Anyway, they've done everything they can to shoot in. It seems like its face actually makes movement, which is inconsistent with a gorilla suit, right? They also...
Are we sure a gorilla didn't escape a zoo?
Yeah, but it would be walking on 2 legs and pretty tall, don't you think?
It just wanted the last laugh.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, they're all like, we're going to get you. We're still going to get you.
This ape is like, I've given birth to an iconic creature.
Yeah. So, okay.
Now give me a banana.
And then he also took and made, like, different ape-shaped heads. And he made them, you know, in different...
I wish you could see the look on my face right now.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
He made ape-shaped heads. Okay, I want you to take a look at my ape heads. And they're ape-shaped. Otherwise, they wouldn't be, they'd be people face shaped, not ape shape.
Exactly. So they actually made some that were more human shaped and ones that got gradually more ape. Anyway.
Okay, could you just please explain to me the difference between little, gradually more ape and less ape?
So our head is really rounded and theirs like dips in and then peaks up to like more of a point at the top. Have you ever looked at like a silverback gorilla at the zoo?
No, but what you described sounds like a unicorn.
Okay, I like unicorns. I mean, I'm just going to say, but not the same thing.
Who doesn't?
So... Anyway.
Back on topic, apologies.
Yes, back on topic. We're good. So when he put a human head inside of it to see if it was a mask, first off, the forehead, if he put it up high enough that it could see through the eyes, would have been poking out of the head. So it wouldn't have fit inside the head if it was a mask. And then if he... Yeah, I know. And then if you had lowered the head to where it would have been in there, it wouldn't have been able to see through the eye holes. So what do you think about that?
I think he was blindly walking through the forest.
What if he had a telescope in there and he was like telescoping it? I mean, it's like 7 feet tall. I'm just saying.
What if he was like Daredevil. And he could just locate rocks and move around them.
Or what if he was a shapeshifter and it's really just shapeshifters we're seeing out there messing with us?
Oh my gosh. I had never even considered such an option.
I know. Maybe Mothman and all of them are just shapeshifters messing with people.
Maybe blue whales are shapeshifters.
Maybe. So, okay. So back to topic. But yeah, I mean, my point is we don't know. So we're talking about the
masks. He's saying, based on his professional opinion, it couldn't really work and have it be portrayed the way that it was, the way it was moving.
Exactly. And then he also said that the way the fur moves, Mr. Munns says, wasn't moving like a cloth suit when you watch the movement. He said that it's moving like something that they make now, maybe.
Two words.
They didn't make then.
Hair and duct tape. I mean, it wouldn't be very fun to pull the suit off when you're done. But, Okay, that
would hurt. That would really, really hurt. And you wouldn't have hair after that. So you definitely wouldn't be Sasquatch now, would you?
You might have 3.
You might. So, okay. So basically, based off of what he knows from Hollywood costumes, he doesn't see how that could have been a costume. And when they even put they took the measurements of a man who was around 7, whatever, and they tried to adjust his body to fit in the suit, and his knee was much higher than where the knee was on the tape. So it's kind of an anomaly. And I honestly feel like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't a person. Maybe somebody had sex with an ape. And they had a baby, and it was just this thing.
And it was exceptionally large with weird proportions.
It was obviously a girl. It had boobs.
I mean, I didn't see that when we watched the footage.
Well, I could re-show you. They even
I mean, I could watch it again and look for some jiggle cleavage, with hair on it.
By the way, my referencing for this whole segment of Munns and everything comes from the History Channel, and it's Monster Hunters, I believe. Let me just check my notes. But I found it to be really interesting because I watched a lot of stuff, and I was really this was the thing that I felt like was the most. I mean, because I'm all about facts. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to be honest with you.
You're not one of those people that are just looking for something to believe in that's crazy.
There's no blind faith for me at all.
Okay.
So anyway, I actually really thought that this was something that you could argue, I'm not saying that it's real, but it definitely gave me pause for thought.
Well, now you've ruined me. Every time I go camping and I'm out in the woods, I'm going to feel like I have to have a camera with me in case I see some large, big, hairy thing with boobs out in the woods.
I mean, maybe it would be its daughter or granddaughter at this point. I'm just saying.
Right. So the question is, I mean, could it be like...
It's Monster Quest. Sorry, from the History Channel.
From the History Channel.
I just want to give them, a shout out.
Proper reference to the info.
Thanks for not boring me with your really fake footage that you're freaking out about. You should see some of these guys. They're just it seriously looks like a guy in a hoodie, and they have their friend run across the street the same way, and he looked the same, and they're all, the gait on him was obviously different. And you watch it, and you're like, and they're like, oh, well, actually it's kind of close. It's because it was probably a man.
And the reality is, people are trying to get famous or have their little one shot of,
That's true.
Of stardom. But it makes you wonder, because the earth is very populated. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, it's more viable for some crazy undiscovered monster to be at the bottom of the ocean than on land. But, something could happen. Some things are possible. You never know.
It's true. And it seems like most of the places where they have sightings are in more northern areas where they have lots of forests that are unexplored.
Where they drink lots and lots of beer.
Washington too. They do. I'm sorry, but I think they do a lot of drugs out. And, we get up into Oregon territory and whatnot.
Yeah. We're like, guys, I went up in the mountains.
Plantation.
I went in the mountains. I was high off my ass, but I was up in the mountains and I was camping all by myself with this camera. And there was this big thing that ran through the woods. And there's no way, it was my friend Jason, there's no way it was too tall and too big.
Was it 15 feet?
No, but when it ran, it was like thunder on the ground, and my car was shaking like a scene from Jurassic Park. And then I started staring at rocks for a few seconds. I'm not sure why, but I pulled it back in. I got it back control of my faculties and got the last couple seconds of it running away.
Sounds traumatic.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay, so let's get back into the footage that are, debatable. And then after that, we're going to talk about just a footprint thing. Because there are some footprint evidences that seem to be a little more, I don't know, have maybe some validity to them, which I never thought I would say until I watched this stuff. Which I
haven't watched it, and all I'm thinking of right now is, have you seen what people can mold out of clay? I mean, like, how hard could it possibly be to mold
to make a cast?
A footprint?
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so anyway, the other one we're going to talk about was actually shot, which a lot of people say this makes it more uncreditable, by a guy who was a Sasquatch hunter.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not suspicious at all.
I know, right?
I've been pursuing it my entire life, and I finally found something.
Okay, so anyway, the cool thing about his is that they had some really great prints, but like you said, it might be because of the fact that this guy was like actually, really wanting to prove there was Bigfoot, considering that he was a big Bigfooter, right?
/ obsessed.
Okay, and we'll link this at the bottom too. Look, I remembered link. So I'm going to show this one to you really quick. It's 14 seconds. So I'm just showing you like the small versions of these. All right,
make sure you pause it when the video's done. That is so pixeled.
Yeah. So it is very pixeled, but it was because supposedly it was far off, so he zoomed in. Okay, and this was also in 1982.
82.
Yeah, so we're not talking
so was there more than one there? That looked like there was two.
No, it's just the footage of the same one, but he caught it from different angles.
Okay, that one to me seems more unbelievable than the initial one.
Yes, I agree.
Because the shrubs and the trees were a little tall, and that literally does look to me like someone in like a suit.
Yes. So,
but it is, of course, so perfectly pixeled that you can't tell for sure.
I know, right? It's like they do it on purpose. It's like, let's get some really old camera.
Don't mind my shitty ass camera that I brought to prove Bigfoot is real. It was because I was undeniably zoomed in very big to look at Bigfoot.
So, but we can at least say, yes, this was shot in the 80s, like early 80s. So they didn't have the best equipment. So, I mean, back then, I think they had more leeway for faking things. Because the camera wasn't good.
But the people from the 60s had better footage. Come on, man.
I know, I agree. So, okay. So his name was Paul Freeman, the guy who shot this. And he actually worked for the Forest Services, and they pulled him in to talk to him about the whole thing. And they actually felt like when they saw the footprints he got and his footage that it was valid enough that they brought in experts to check it. Yeah. So.
Well, at least, he has some credibility. He worked for the Forest Service. It's not some bozo from the sticks.
But he was obsessed with Bigfoot.
Well,
yeah, I'm just saying that, to me, totally discredits. But a lot of people, this is another one that's really bigly talked about. So he said it was nearly 8 feet tall. and covered in reddish brown body hair. But to me, that looked blackish in the footage. I'm just saying. Am I wrong?
Yeah, there was. I mean, apparently, if you saw it with the naked eye, there was much more color detail than his pixelated camera that he was looking through. But you know.
Yeah, exactly. So in 1994, he also captured supposedly Bigfoot on videotape near the Blue Mountain region of the northeastern Oregon.
Well, so okay, another fishy point.
That he managed to do it
So
twice.
you found him in the 80s. Man, how come you haven't found him for like 10 years? Oh, man. We best come up with something. We gotta find him again, right?
I know.
Does that sound suspicious to you?
I know. I'm just saying. I agree.
90s? So do we have a sighting from the same guy in the 2000s? Or?
I know, right? And 90, it was just like 12 years later, right? So he's like, he must have felt like he wasn't getting enough attention anymore. And then he decided to make a new one.
He was spending all of his free time canvassing the forest, and it happened to take that many years till he found it again.
Fair.
More likely story.
I don't know about that, man. Anyway, so one of the things that was special about the footprint he found, which we're going to go into that, and then after that we'll conclude this, but...
You used the word special and not like interesting.
It said that it showed dermal ridges, which is like, I didn't know that they called, a fingerprint, the little things in it, that those are actually called dermal ridges. I didn't know that. So it actually had dermal ridges in the footprint. So like, if you took your feet.
If you look at my hand, Lele.
You should see his face now.
How many dermal ridges would you see?
I think a lot in your...
Is that a dermal ridge?
It's supposed to be a fingerprint, not in your palm.
Oh.
We're not palm reading here.
Okay,
I wish you could all see him right now.
My finger. Okay, so is that a dermal ridge?
Yes.
Or is that the tip of my finger?
That's a dermal ridge in the tip of your finger.
Oh.
Yes.
Continue.
So anyway, that was why it was such a big deal, was because it didn't just have like
another
a
side
shape.
squirrel. I feel like that could be some explanation that a woman makes in some romance novel. He caressed my face
with his dermal ridges.
With his dermal ridges. Okay, I'm sorry.
Maybe something that, some scientist geeks would read.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, okay. Wow, that was something else. Thank you, Mikey.
I am something else.
So, okay. Now to the footprinting.
To the footprinting.
So...
dermal ridges.
Yes.
The footprinting. That's special.
Yes. So, okay, this is another thing that I feel like makes me want to, almost second guess, except for the fact that you're right. Somebody could take a cast and or someone could just know how the foot of a primate works and they can make a fake cast, right? Because they're too big to be an actual primate.
Right.
So,
yeah, because if it matched the size of a primate, then it would just be too easy to dismiss it and say, it's just the footprint of an ape.
Yeah, exactly. So, and actually, what, like 100,000 years ago, there was a primate that was big enough that would have fit this. But, the fact that people are seeing them now, I mean, we haven't seen any of it. So, I mean, just as a valid point.
100,000 years ago?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I actually, it was...
Are you sure it wasn't 999,995?
Pretty sure, because they said over 100,000 years ago. So, okay. There actually were primates that were large back then. But, how many people have the bones? Well, you wouldn't even need the bones. You would need a footprint. So basically, this is what's cool about it. So they've found some footprints, and they have something that's called a mid-tarsal break, which is where...
I'm learning so many new anatomical
I'm learning
explanations for things. This is insightful.
I know. I actually thought I was going to be totally bored by this, but it's fascinating when you research something that you haven't really checked much into.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's found only in great apes. And they've found that to be in these footprints that they've casted that they found out in the
And
forest.
great apes are
great apes we're talking like a silverback monkey or, like the big apes. So they have the same thing as them. And is what it does is it's like a hinge that allows the heel to move separately from the rest of the foot. So, you know how when you get your footprint, you have that curve on the inner part of your foot between
the arch.
Yeah, the arch. They don't have that. They have
in fact, I wish my arch wasn't so great. I wouldn't be suffering from plantar fasciitis from hell. If I didn't have such a big arch.
This is not about you, Mike.
How do you know the ape wasn't suffering? I mean, the Sasquatch.
Well, I mean, because he has a hinge, so he doesn't have to worry about it, right? I know, Michael. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You should see the sadness.
Bring it back in. It's okay. It's all right.
Okay. So basically,
I'm just in pain. That's all. It hurts. I have to buy expensive shoes.
I like buying expensive shoes. I don't need to.
I don't. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm making this so hard for you.
No, it's fine. So anyway, okay. So there is a cast also to make it more interesting that was found. And it's called the Boshberg Cripplefoot casts. So there's an area where they had a whole bunch of footprints and one of them was misshapen and they're Bigfoot size feet. So they decided to get a foot professional, like a foot doctor. And what do you call it? I don't know. What an interesting job. I mean, hats off to those guys. I'm just saying.
Hold on.
There's a lot of people with foot fetishes.
This is really important. Okay, Google. What do you call a foot doctor?
According to Web
It's a podiatrist.
Oh, nice.
I didn't even have to wait for it to explain it to me. It came right as it was about to show up on my
Look
screen.
at that. You're so smart, pro.
Podiatrist.
Yes. So this basically it's a pair of footprint impressions from a crippled Sasquatch or Bigfoot from the northeastern Washington state, cast and reconstructed by Dr. Grover Krantz.
Grover?
And hopefully I haven't mispronounced any names in here. If I did, I'm sorry. It's not always easy to know how to say stuff. But he's a professor of anthropology at Washington State University.
Interesting.
Yes. And by analyzing the differences between the deformed and normal prints, Dr. Krantz reconstructed the skeletal structure of the feet and concluded the print was made by a non-human, large-massed, bipedal animal, consistent with descriptions given in Bigfoot sightings. And that due to their precise conformity to adaptations needed for the bipedal locomotion? Bipedal, it looks like locomotion. Do the locomotion.
Come on, do the locomotion with me.
As such a large animal, fakery would nearly be impossible. Spoken from the true words of scientists that I cannot duplicate properly.
And or read.
Locomotion.
It's okay. I would have probably butchered that too. So no judgment at all. Zero judgment.
It's bipedal locomotion. I swear the locomotion is there. Do the locomotion. Oh, locomotion.
It's the locomotion.
Well, I'm sorry.
You're calling it the love commotion now?
Hey, how do you know?
Are you trying to make a perfectly innocent song dirty? No. Is that what you're doing right now? Because I think you're trying to mutilate it and turn it into something it's not.
Oh, speaking of which, you want to hear what's really funny? One of the things I watched, there was a woman who took a whole group of only women researchers out into the wilderness because she believed that the Sasquatch is maybe intimidated and driven away by men. And so they went out there and they set up spots where they cut up apples for Sasquatch. They set up cameras and they went and they sung Christmas carols and I think lullabies. I know for sure the Christmas carols because they thought that if they heard female voices, it would maybe draw them in. So are they trying to say like Sasquatch is rapey? They said it's because they don't think that he's intimidated by women.
Apparently they like apples, who can turn away from apples and carols, right? Like,
Jingle bells.
we're going to go out into the woods and we're going to cut up apples and sing Christmas songs. And lo and behold, the Sasquatch shall come down and gob for apples with us on Christmas carols.
Sasquatch balls, Sasquatch all the way.
Yeah,
Anyway, of course, they didn't find anything.
of course.
They did get excited.
How many women signed up for this?
I think there was about 8 in the footage. And they did get some footage of something passing a camera, and they realized that it was a car that was passing on the road by.
Yeah, they're probably like, who are these crazy ladies singing Christmas carols in, what did it say what time of year they actually went out there and did that?
I did not
I'm
document
assuming
that.
it's Christmas time?
No, it wasn't.
Was it the middle of July?
They said the only reason that they did, it was summer.
How do they
I
know
think.
Sasquatch wouldn't be, called forth by the Star Spangled Banner? Oh, say, can you see?
Oh, but it's not supposed to be masculine. Remember, we're non-threatening.
oh.
You have to...
I can't even go that high. I think a window would break if I did. Well, they were unsuccessful. That's too bad. That's
Yes.
unfortunate. It was a good plan.
It was a good
It
try.
almost seemed a little foolproof.
I think they sang...
I would have been pissed if I was one of those women that went and didn't see it. Like, oh, it's just a car! It's just a car! We cut up apples! And we sang Christmas carols! And it still didn't come!
It was a lot of apples. I'm just going to say. They were planning for, serving up a big meal for Bigfoot.
Talking like a really large, like, fruit platter? Or like an orchard
They put
dumped
it in a cut down tree. Like, it was almost like a platter there. It was waiting all special for Bigfoot.
Okay.
But they say the reason they did Christmas carols and whatnot is because at least they all knew that.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So anyway, I found this to actually be more interesting than I thought. And I'm excited about our podcast. I appreciate that, we get to delve a little deeper into stuff we normally wouldn't.
We're gonna delve deep. We're gonna delve real deep, people. We're gonna find the depths of the deepest depth you've ever depthed to.
So I just want to know, on conclusion, what do you think? Do you think, off of what I told you, that there's some validity? I really feel like that footage that was shot back in, the Patterson Gimlin film.
The one from the 60s?
Yeah, that it was actually, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that one. What do you think about all of this?
Well, I think that if I've learned anything in my vast 38 years of experience on this planet, that to say we know anything is, we don't know anything. There's still so much we don't know. There's still so much that we're discovering every single day. And you can say unlikely, you can say very unlikely, but honestly, no one could say for sure that there is none, which is why someone releasing some footage can get any kind of excitement out of anybody, because we still don't know everything. And there could be a 15-foot shaggy, hairy lady with her breast is dangling around in the mountains, and it's never been seen, and it's really tall and very big and makes the earth shake, but still no one finds it except for 3 people.
So yeah, I think it's possible too. I also feel like nowadays, with where technology is going, it's harder to disprove or prove this stuff because it's getting too easy to fake things. So, who knows? Maybe we'll find something creditable. So far, I feel like most things that most people have to offer isn't something that I could even begin to say, oh yeah, you're probably right,
Well, and think about this. I told several stories when I was a child where I definitely saw one of Santa's elves. Like, it actually happened, and I gave a first account eyewitness description of, an elf. Did you ever do that when you were a kid?
No.
You're like, I actually did see Santa Claus.
No,
His
Mikey.
big jelly butt cheeks were sticking out of the fireplace before he shot up And I was like, I knew it was real. It's real. It's not my parents.
You know, I'm just going to say I grew up with you, and I think that, you know, you could even say I never stated that I saw such things. You know, I've always been
So I'm a pathological liar. And you're the truthful one. Is that it?
I didn't say it. I'm just...
Here he goes again, making up his stories about Santa's elves. I'm just saying, right?
Okay, we're talking about Sasquatch here. How did
Is
we
there
get to
really a
Santa's elf?
difference? I feel like the elves are a little more believable. Just saying.
I mean, I don't know, but my anyway, we just want to thank everyone for listening, and we want to, you know, bring lots of stuff at you and just talk about whatever, and we're excited to hear what you guys think about what we had to say, and let us know what you think about Sasquatch. Michael, do you have anything else or Mikey? Do you have anything else you want to say?
Just that it's very fun to talk about such things, and who knows, you know, we could go camping and see something that we never can explain. So, but yeah, looking forward to more topics, diving in and letting my really crazy, weird, loud, obnoxious brain dominate the microphone.
Sounds good. I love it. All right. Thanks, everyone. And we'll put links below. And this is Lele and Mikey. And
I'll see you soon.
goodbye.
Ding dong day.
I have nothing to say to that.